And joining us right now on the hotline is the D.C. correspondent for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and that is Jonathan Tamari. Jonathan, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing great. Thank you very much for joining us. So just 2 days ago, you happened to be at the debate between Senator Pat Toomey and Katie McGinty. Can you tell us a bit about your thoughts on the debate, and do you think if it moved the needle at all?
Well, it was a lot. If you've been watching this election and you've been getting the TV ads in your home in Philadelphia or suburban Philadelphia or anywhere across Pennsylvania, you probably heard a lot of familiar stuff in that debate. A lot of the similar attacks that we've been hearing from both sides played out, this time coming straight from the candidates' mouths instead of, their campaign arms. We heard Pat Toomey once again kind of straddle a really fine line on Donald Trump, not saying whether he is or isn't going to support the Republican nominee. And we heard Katie McGinty, pitching her story and facing attacks over the work that she did when she was in government, and Senator Toomey alleging that she enriched herself when she was in public office. I don't think there was a lot there that changed the race. I think a lot of it was them repeating stuff we've already heard before. There were no major gaffes. I think there were a lot of questions heading in about how McGinty would do in a one-on-one debate. She's never been in that situation before. But she seemed to hold her own. There might have been one small stumble, but nothing that has risen to the level that would, move a statewide race.
And Jonathan, I was watching that debate, and I was sitting there, and I thought that Katie McGinty had a much stronger personality presence than Senator Toomey did, and I thought that was one of the things that worked in her benefit. But do you think it's still a detriment that Senator Toomey hasn't endorsed Donald Trump? Do you think that that's going to play with voters and send them to the other side?
I think the fact that we're at this point, he still hasn't done it, means they must be seeing something that tells them that it's not a detriment, or that picking one side or the other would be more of a detriment than what he's doing right now, which is saying he's not ruling it out, but he also has either. He's got a difficult balancing act here, where there are a lot of moderates who are turned off by Donald Trump, and especially some of the recent revelations, and don't want to support him. On the other hand, he's got a lot of very enthusiastic supporters. I can tell you, whenever I write about this issue, the most emails I get are from Trump supporters who say, well, if Pat Toomey doesn't get behind him, I'm not voting for the senator. So I think that's a difficult bind that he's in, and I think we'll see on Election Day whether he's making the right calculation, or if he eventually does come out with a firm statement one way or the other.
And one of the main issues that we saw Katie McGinty hit Senator Toomey on is this company that he had, this bank that ended up foreclosing on the members, and she was saying, how can you be up here? You basically led these people into the dark over that. What do you know about any details about this that has seemingly kind of come out in the past few weeks?
Yes, there's been some reporting on this, and as is often the case with political ads, and this is true about the ads from both parties, there's a lot more to it than you initially hear in the soundbite. There were foreclosures. This was a bank that Senator Toomey founded and owned stock in for some time. It was sold in 2013, and he now owns stock in the bank that purchased the one that he founded. And it involves a process that really speeds up the foreclosure process in Pennsylvania. And so obviously that's a very sensitive issue given the housing crisis and how many people we saw that were hurt by that. But what Senator Toomey pointed out in the debate, and his defense will argue, is that these were not foreclosures on the kind of mortgage that an average person might take out for their place where they live. These were business loans. So people may have taken out a business loan from his bank, and they put up their house as collateral. And if they fell behind on their mortgage, then the bank was in a position to try to foreclose on that home, again, through a sped-up process that essentially awards the case to the bank on the surface, and then it's up to the homeowner to come and challenge that decision, and the burden falls on the homeowner there. It's not legal in many states, but it is legal in Pennsylvania. There's no accusation of any illegal activity. And this is something that's disclosed in these mortgages. It's written by law in extra large type. So the people signing these loan agreements knew what they were getting into. So it was used maybe 20 times over, I think it was a 4 or 5 year period, if I remember right. And again, not illegal, but it is something that Democrats are using to bigger narrative that they've been trying to paint, that he is a big business guy and not on the side of regular people.
So not illegal, but maybe just unethical.
I wouldn't want to draw a conclusion on that. As a reporter kind of trying to cover the race, his campaign would say, listen, these are perfectly allowed, and that the people who signed these mortgages or signed these loan documents agreed to these terms. So again, I think that's all in the eye of which side of the aisle you sit on.
Joining us on WHIP Radio right now is Jonathan Tamari, who is the D.C. correspondent for the Philadelphia Inquirer, talking Senator Pat Toomey, Katie McGinty, and also we're going to get into the debate tonight between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. But last question to wrap up the Toomey-McGinty talk is that in the past 2 weeks we've seen several polls with so much different data. We talked about the Quinnipiac poll in which Toomey was leading by 8 points. We looked at the Franklin and Marshall polling in which McGinty was leading by 6 points, and several others where there was somewhere in between. If you could gauge where it's at right now percentage-wise, because we've seen so many different polls with different data, where do you think it's at right now?
Yeah, I think the conclusion you have to draw, and just to update, Quinnipiac has a new poll today that has Toomey leading by 4. So even in their own survey, it's tightened a bit. I think when you talk to people who are inside these campaigns, it's at a position where either side can win. Toomey might be winning by a little, McGinty might be winning by a little, but neither of them have the kind of advantage, depending which poll you look at, neither of them have the kind of advantage I think that anybody really feels like this is over at this point, and that there's still enough tightness there that the outcome of the presidential race, the get-out-the-vote efforts by each campaign, any last-minute stumbles could really become a factor and could sway it. I don't think it would be a shock if either candidate won this race, and it really could be a late night on election night as we watch these returns roll in.
And we're going to shift gears here quickly to talk about the debate tonight between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. This is the third and final presidential debate. Chris Wallace will be moderating it. It starts at 9 p.m. tonight. I think many people have written off Donald Trump's campaign. What do you expect to see from Mr. Trump tonight? And do you think he's going to go out swinging?
I do think he's going to go out swinging. I think that, his one chance, because you just point out the polls have gone so far against him, is to score somehow some kind of huge moment that Hillary Clinton stumbles, or that, she makes a giant error, or he somehow scores some big points that can somehow change the momentum. It's hard to think of what that would be in a debate this close to Election Day, given the way the polls have gone. But that seems to be his one chance, and all indications are that he's going to put out all the stops and hope, for some kind of Hail Mary win here tonight that can reverse things. As we remember, a lot of his downfall started with a poor performance in the first debate, so we'll see if he can try to reverse that. For Hillary Clinton, you get the sense that if she can come through this debate relatively unscathed, she's in very strong position heading towards Election Day.
So, Jonathan, we're 20 days from Election Day, and recently what's been dominating the news cycle are these emails from WikiLeaks and all these documents. And we've seen Senator Marco Rubio has weighed in on it, and he said that, basically Republicans should back off because we're attacking them today, but tomorrow it could be us. Do you think that may be the Hail Mary that Trump goes for in the debate tonight?
I'm sure he'll be bringing up the emails and pounding anything he can find in that. He's talked about trying to bring up Bill Clinton's own transgressions from the past. Reports are he's bringing a relative, a half-brother of President Obama to the event who's supporting him. So I think that he will grasp for anything that he thinks will give him an advantage. I think the WikiLeaks emails will certainly come up. The challenge for him is that there has been so much news about Trump in these past few weeks that even though WikiLeaks has been in the headlines, they haven't often gotten as much attention as some of the controversies that he's found himself in.
And you bring up controversies with Donald Trump, and I think something that's very fascinating that in the first two debates, he didn't mention once building the wall or building a wall between United States of America and Mexico. Do you think this gets brought up tonight?
Possibly. I mean, it would seem to be, it's certainly been one of the bigger selling points he's had for his supporters, and so you're right, it's surprising that he did not that during the debate. That shows maybe that he was taken off track a little bit, because you would think he would press one of his main issues. So I could see that coming up, but it's not the kind of thing that I think would change the outcome of the race at this point. Everybody knows who's for the wall and who's not right now. And, his supporters would love it, but I don't think that's the kind of thing that's going to expand his support to anybody new, which is what he needs to do here.
And last question here, Jonathan, before we let you go. What people have been saying, we talked about this earlier, but, news has been reporting that Hillary Clinton has been, locked up doing debate prep for the better part of 5 days. Do you think that we see that polished person come out in her tonight, or do we think that Trump and his team with Chris Christie and Jeff Sessions and Rudy Giuliani make some sort of miraculous appearance after they kind of release themselves from Trump Tower? One of the things that I think has been interesting is that she's often used the line saying that, yes, I am prepared. I prepared for this debate, and yes, I am prepared for to be president.
And so you're asking, what do we see from her tonight? Is
it
different?
Yeah, just because, going into the last one, you have to think that obviously she's not going to blow it off. I think it would be silly for her to think that she has this all locked up before the polls even open. But do we see something else from her tonight other than, what she said the whole time along?
I think you're going to see discipline from her is what I would predict, because, again, she has such an advantage right now that one of the few things that would seem to be able to really trip her up would be a major gaffe. And so, I think that we see her try to be disciplined and probably lay some traps for Trump as she did in that first debate. He certainly will come in with a game plan. The issue is that we've seen that he will stray from that game plan. If he sees something that provokes him, something catches his eye, he tends to hold his own counsel and go after whatever he thinks is right, regardless of what those around him are saying. And so I think she will try to get him off track and get him onto some tangents that maybe don't work as well for him.
That's Jonathan Tamari, D.C. correspondent for the Philadelphia Inquirer, joining us here on WHIP Radio, Philadelphia's #1 college radio station. Jonathan, thanks so much, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you for having me.